Portugal. This falls into the category of stuff that I want you to know about because you really need to know about it, even though the American press is going to do a terrible job of telling you about it. Like just like the American press doesn't talk about the election officials who were busted for voting fraud in Kentucky, for election fraud, just like the press doesn't talk at all about TPP, even though it's arguably one of the most consequential pieces of legislation to happen in my lifetime. I think this is the final corporate takeover of the United States, of frankly most of the world. And I predict that the TTIP, the TPP version for Europe, is going to be rejected by a lot of European countries. We are in the United States, even with a Democrat as president, we are still adopting what are called neoliberal reforms. You might call them Reaganomics reforms or conservative economic reforms. In Europe, they refer to it as neoliberalism. See, liberal in Europe means libertarian, is what we call libertarian here in the United States. It means, I don't care. It's all, no government, get out of the way. Just let it happen. That's what in Europe, they refer to people like that as liberals. Here we call them libertarians. And neoliberalism is this kind of new liberalism, which says, government shouldn't interfere. Government shouldn't do anything. And even the people shouldn't be able to interfere. It just should all be run by big corporations to the benefit of big corporations. And what benefits big corporations the most? Low wages. I mean, the ultimate low wages was slavery, right? We've been running on this model for 200, 300, 400, 500 years. And so in Europe, this is coming unraveled. And it's coming unraveled in a bunch of different ways. Number one, the refugee crisis is bringing out in Europe this nativist strain of basically white backlash. I don't know how to say it beyond that. It's or European backlash, but it's European white folks who are saying no, no. Financial Times, Simon Cooper writing, the other day I was back in Leiden, a sleepy Dutch town where I grew up, listening to a rare politician tell a pro-refugee story. Democratic mayor of Rotterdam is actually a very popular Dutch politician. His name is Ahmed Aboutaleb, and he's a Muslim from Morocco. He, however, is the exception, not the rule. In this article, Simon Cooper writing in the Financial Times, now nativism is hitting new heights. Nativism basically would be Switzerland for the Swiss, Denmark for the Danes, Norway for the Norwegians. We only want people living here who share our genetics and our appearance. But it's always going to be phrased in the context of our values, which means what? Our religion? Not so much, not in Europe. Basically our commitment to secular social democracy. But back to the article. In last month's Swiss elections, the ultra-conservative Swiss People's Party expanded its lead as the country's biggest party. In one campaign ad, a jihadi wearing an EU armband prepares to decapitate a beautiful Swiss blonde. I'm just waiting for the ad where where the ad here in the United States where it shows a Democratic politician wearing a jihadi, an ISIS armband, and a Barack Obama button, decapitating a beautiful blonde. Right? It's the next step in Willie Horton. Anyhow, France's National Front says it can win 6 of the country's 13 regions in December's election. The rightist PIS party just won power in Poland. All of Poland now is controlled by right-wingers. Eastern Europe's mainstream now talks like the far right, says Kaz Muddle, expert on European populism at the U.S.'s University of Georgia. When the Social Democratic Czech president Milo Zeman says refugees will introduce Sharia law, who needs the National Front? Political Capital, sort of a Politico of Europe, says the refugee crisis has led to an unprecedented proliferation of conspiracy theories. One popular theory, this back from this Financial Times article by Simon Cooper, one popular theory on social media says the Jews created ISIS. The so-called refugees invading Europe are therefore Israeli-backed ISIS operatives funded by George Soros, which explains why they have smartphones. The end game is hashtag white genocide. Meanwhile, says this theory, the Zionist media are hiding the facts. If you like conspiracies, it's a good story. Sweden is now considering border controls, he writes. In Germany, the refugee issue might actually unseat Angela Merkel. He says, Europe's last liberal bastions are precisely big cosmopolitan cities full of Muslims. Nativists are getting nowhere in London, Paris, or Amsterdam. In Vienna's municipal elections last month held while refugees poured into the city, the Social Democrats triumphed. But cosmopolitan liberals are being thumped in national elections. What the bottom line is, Europe is turning into red state, blue state. I would argue that one of the principal defining characteristics of blue states or of blue areas in the United States is that they're urban, that they're big cities. Whether they're white urban or black urban, it doesn't matter. They tend to be liberal or Hispanic urban for that matter. When you get out into the rural areas, they tend to be more conservative. And one of the cleaving lines, one of the dividing lines is race, racism, and immigration, and the whole subtext of race that's associated with immigration. Now, why is that? Well, at a certain level, it's just good old-fashioned racism, but at another level, it has to do with what happened to my job. Right? There's a huge element of that. And this is happening in the United States, and I think it's one of the reasons why we're seeing so much virulent right-wing hate speech rising in the United States. The Donald Trump style is like the mild end of the spectrum, where they're talking about, immigrants who are bringing diseases into the country and all this kind of stuff. Patrick Thibodeau, writing over on Computer World. The IT workers, this is, information technology. In other words, the computer nerds, right? The people who write the code and who make things happen on computers. The IT workers at Cengage Learning in the company's Mason, Ohio offices learned of their fates game show style. Yep, they brought all the employees into a giant auditorium and they said, okay, most of you are going to stay here. A small percentage of you are going to go to room number 2 and an even smaller percentage to room number 3. And it was like, 3% and 1% or something like that. The people who stayed in the room all got fired. The people who went to room number 2 were going to be kept on to train their replacements. Keep in mind, this is a company in Ohio. Their replacements being in India. And the people in room number 1 were the very cream of the crop of the employees, and they were offered a job with the new outsourcing company through whom they're getting their Indian employees. The article by Patrick Thibodeau notes in Computer World, the employee, the head of it is fury and fear in Ohio as IT jobs go to India. IT workers are training their replacements. The employees were warned that speaking to the news media meant loss of severance pay. The employees remaining at Cengage have begun training their replacements in person and via the web. Their work is being shadowed and recorded. Their jobs will end in January. Now, this company that is doing the outsourcing is the third largest user of H-1B visas in the United States. Oh.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
So they're actually bringing people into the United States from India and other countries to take the jobs of Americans at a lower pay using the H-1B visa program. Insane. To watch more clips from our programs, hit the Watch More Videos button over here. And please be sure to hit the handy-dandy subscribe button so you'll always be up to date. Tag, you're it.